Hey guys, welcome back. It's Kiana with Let's Talk About It with Q. I'm listening. Today I have a really special guest on, Aleana. She's going to talk a little bit about her mental health experiences with us and talk a little bit about medications, unmedicated, medicated, some of the therapies that she's done, and kind of what it's done for her in life. Aleana, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. So, how are you doing today for starters?
Well, ironically, since we're talking about mental health, I had a really bad let's see, last Friday and then the Friday before last. But other than that, today it is Sunday. I have no issues. We're doing well.
Well, this
So
is good. This is
good
good.
time.
That's always a good thing. Definitely, definitely. Well, good. Well, thanks so much for coming in and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. So for starters, what diagnosis do you have? Or
So
diagnoses?
yeah, which I mean, people should not feel offended or feel less than for being diagnosed with more than one thing. So I was diagnosed May 1st, 2020. I've had mental health issues before then, but I was diagnosed. That was my first diagnosis. Let me see. Major depressive disorder,
Okay.
PTSD, anxiety. I've been re-diagnosed for that multiple times. It still says unspecified, but it's anxiety. And then recently it's been ADHD.
Oh, okay. All right. And how recently was that?
That was within the last 6 months. Don't remember the exact date, but my current therapist, in a nutshell, my psychiatrist said maybe you're bipolar, but then my current therapist said that's probably ADHD, and we did a test and everything else for that, and then my psychiatrist was like, oh yeah, that makes more sense that it's ADHD, ADD related rather than bipolar. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
strange how they can like how those things can all kind of seem like each other.
yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with being, there's nothing wrong with being bipolar or being, you have anxiety or whatever it is. It's really more so figuring out, hey, like this is the block that I'm missing, and how do I fill in that block, or how do I learn how to live without that block?
Exactly.
So
Good point, definitely. All right, well, so now growing up, did you always feel different or like what kind of experiences led you to those diagnoses?
I want to say I had a pretty normal childhood in the sense of I had Well, okay. So my mom is white, my dad's black. My mom's parents didn't talk to her for like 10 years because like they're Southern and she married a black guy and like whatever.
Yeah.
But outside of that, pretty normal childhood. Both my parents were in the home. Um, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she was like involved in the PTA, and my dad worked for Lockheed Martin, like and he was in the army, and like we had a pretty well-rounded, excuse me, my sister is like 18 months older than I am, so like we had a
Okay.
pretty well-rounded childhood. And a lot of my mental health stuff didn't start till I was probably 19.
Okay.
But my sister was diagnosed with ADD, or technically ADHD, when she was probably 8.
Oh, okay.
And the only importance of bringing that up is that I wasn't diagnosed with that. I was able to focus on stuff.
Yeah.
And my mom used to have to take because she didn't want to put my sister on medication, she had to take a black garbage bag and put it up in front of like the entrance way so that I could watch TV because I was doing my homework, but my sister had to finish her homework. And so this way I could watch Ren and Stimpy, and my sister had to, continue to
Yeah.
learn about Shakespeare or whatever she was working on at the time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that I wasn't held liable, like, oh, your sister can't do XYZ, so
Yeah.
you can't
You can't.
either. Yeah. So, I mean, but my sister also, in retrospect, she's a science and math person, and I'm an English person.
Oh, okay.
So, like, like it all worked out. Because then
Yeah.
eventually it just turned into like, Alita, can you like let your sister know what like this passage means? And I'm like, So this is Finnegan's Wake, and you either think that it's hysterical or you want to uh, go into exactly what he means. But I think that he's a troll, but it's a beautiful piece of work. But like,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what it turned into. So yeah, so honestly, I guess, not to be graphic, the first time I ever cut myself or was even into any, darkness
Yeah.
was probably when I was like 11. And
Okay.
then, but it didn't last too long. It was really, and I want to put that up into like, not even teen angst, because that's not a teen angst, like, oh, I'm a teenager and like the world doesn't understand me. Um, but yeah, but I really, other than one time when I was 11, it was really just out of curiosity rather than like something happened.
Yeah.
Uh, Childhood wise, everything was great. The first time anything, mental health wise, I want to say ever really affected me was when I was 19.
Okay. Okay. And what happened then?
So let me see. My first boyfriend I had, Faye, beautiful. I love him so much. We're not together right now, ever again. I'm married. Excuse me. But first love of my life. We had a great like 4 years. Beautiful. Like it's really just even like, hey, like let's take a nap together, but like we're gonna like be fully clothed. Like we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And I was like, oh, and I assumed that's how all men or even just people were, and
Yeah.
that's not how they are.
No.
So, yeah, so I had my first experience with life, if you will, but it also wasn't, it was unwarranted. So that started my journey into like, okay, I didn't like that. And just telling my mom about that. And she was like, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? And I'm like, I don't know, like give me guidance.
Yeah. Right. Guidance
So
would be
like,
good.
right? Like, cause it's not funny, but at the same time, it's more so like in retrospect, like, hey, this happened and I didn't give a green light. I more so gave like a red light with like a stop sign. And
Yeah.
they kept going. So like, is that okay? Is that how that's supposed to go? Well, no, but like you shouldn't have been wearing that. I shouldn't have been wearing a trench coat and baggy jeans. Uh, well, it was winter time, so like you caught me.
Yeah. Right. It's all right.
Yeah, but yeah, so after that it really was I found up. No, I ended up with my tribe of friends. I have a solid tribe of like 10 friends
Oh, that's
that I've
awesome.
had for at least 3 years apiece. My main friend, I want to say, is Philip. He's probably never going to listen to this because he doesn't even watch any of the YouTube clips I send up of anything, but it's fine. Um, but yeah, just really being like, hey, like this bad thing happened, and how do I prevent myself from continuing the cycle? And just in a nutshell, like, hey, this bad thing happened, and even if my mom, who's had this happen not to her but to her siblings,
Yeah.
and they went through that, and fair enough, going through that in like the 60s 70s is totally different than going through it in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Totally different, but at least it's not a unfamiliar concept. But
Yeah.
yeah, just knowing that, okay, if I'm going to heal myself, and I don't have any kids yet, but if I do want kids, I don't want to continue a cycle of, oh, you were looked at wrong, sorry about that, like deal with that yourself. I want to be like, hey, that wasn't okay, but I love you and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in a nutshell, when I let me see. So yeah, the first bad thing happened when I was 19, and then I searched far and wide to find a therapist, to find groups, to find whatever would help me through that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for myself, it happened multiple times since then. But at least I was still in that journey of, okay, well, like, oh, we got knocked down, but we're gonna get back up.
Exactly.
So yeah. So I've spent a lot of my time just working more so on myself and working outside of my family. A lot of people, they're fortunate to have families that say, hey, we'll help you through this, we'll love you, we'll do whatever. even if that wasn't my story, I feel like, because I definitely post a lot about mental health on my Facebook, my definitely my Instagram, but my Facebook, I get in trouble for that because a lot of my mom's family, my sister's family, whatever, excuse me, my sister's in-laws, whatever, on that were like, "Oh, your sister is having an issue." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with that? Can I have an issue?
Yeah, the only times that I really post is if I feel like it's something that's relatable. So, just to give an example, it'll be, I don't know. So recently I watched The Ring.
Okay.
So I love The Ring. I love horror movies and all of
Yeah.
that. And so The Ring, and spoiler alert for people that haven't fully that haven't watched Ringu and like all like the actual Japanese
Yeah, the
horror,
real
whatever.
ones.
Thank you. You find out like Samara, the evil girl from The Ring, is a product of rape from a priest.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
which is, I mean, if you don't dive into the story like that, then you would never know that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay. And so that's like, okay, so her mother is like shunned because like she gave birth to an unmentionable, or I guess an unwanted child.
Yeah,
The priest, like he's allowed to live his life and whatever.
of course.
But then, of course, the child is left. I don't. The Japanese horror is a tiny bit different from that, but the American version is exactly like, oh yeah, the priest raped her, and like she like ended up with a daughter from rape, and I'm like, okay, but like you didn't help to heal the mom or the kid, so
Yeah,
like,
right? They didn't
yeah,
that father didn't mention that, put that in the storyline.
nope. So I'm like, okay, so it's really, I mean, the Ring itself, I love the Ring. And just as a piggyback, so like Silent Hill, even though the video game is different from the movie, like the first movie, brilliant, but it's really just let me see. So the Ring, the American version, the first one, the
Yeah.
second one, and then Silent Hill, just the first one, not the second one. It's really just, the mom loves their kids so much they're willing to do and sacrifice whatever they can to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
And I never got that. Even I'm about to be 32. I still haven't gotten that. And that's okay, but what I can do is tell my story and make sure that other people don't feel alone.
Yep.
And I've noticed that, let me see, the first time I really spoke about mental health on social media, I had a lot of even friends from high school say like, "Oh, hey, like I feel like less alone because you spoke about it." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I took a lot of flack for it. Like my parents and my sister don't talk to me anymore. But at the same time, like if you feel less alone, like that's all I care about.
Exactly. So you've reached out to
So,
what you've at least reached one person, and that's
right.
really important.
So yeah. So I guess to answer your question, even though I gave a lot of information at one time, was basically just, you know, don't, if you ignore what is wrong with you, or even if you think there's something wrong with you, it's better to know like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you, or that there's something wrong with you, rather than to spend your time being like, oh, I'm fine, and then be like, why do I have these feelings, or why did grandpa do XYZ? I just need to have like an idea as to why. That's another thing for me, but like still, like, just to know why that's inappropriate behavior, and we don't accept that. Okay, cool, like that's great.
Exactly.
In the sense of like, that's great that that behavior is not condoned, like that's not how it should be. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take over your podcast, I'm
Oh,
so
no, no, you're
sorry.
good. No, 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 no. This is good stuff. This is good.
I also feel
This is
like this
good.
keeps moving, but yeah.
There we go. No, it was moving a little bit, but you're good now.
The
So
beanbag.
now, I know you said that you don't really talk to all your family right now.
So let me see. Oh, okay, well I can tell you exactly for me, because this might reach other people, which
Yeah.
I so my let me see. Like I said, it came from a mixed background, white mom, black dad, which today's society doesn't seem that crazy. But
Yeah.
when my parents got married in, I think, what was it, 81?
Okay.
83. Early 80s, it was definitely taboo back then.
Oh yeah.
Like super taboo, especially because they were married in England, and it was like, what are
Oh
you
yeah.
doing? My mom's parents are from the deep south. Like her dad's from Tennessee, her mom's from, I don't know, but like her mom's the only person on that side of the family that I'm like absolutely like hands down, like for life, we're kin. But anyways, but yeah, my dad's family's all from like DC area. Well, excuse me. Maiden name is Cofield. We're from Cofield, North Carolina. And I was definitely raised knowing like my maiden name is a slave name, which has no, like, I understand that. And a lot of people have, the
Yeah.
slave name and everything else, but it was really more so just recognizing where you come from and
Definitely.
your background and just, hey, while February is important, March is important, and also April, and also knowing that like it
Yes.
doesn't just end in February, like it
Exactly.
continues.
It's not just that
Yeah.
1 month.
Which I mean, I'm pretty sure you have stories similar to that. Like,
Oh,
hey, it's
definitely.
not just like, oh, February 28th, like, oh, it's over. Like, no, whether
Yeah.
it's your grandma, grandpa, your mom, your dad, both, like, whatever, it's
Yeah. It's definitely not just a 1 month situation. It's a year round thing. It's an everyday acknowledge it thing.
thank you. And with that being said, it's like, okay, so mental health and also recognize where you come from and why you are the way you are isn't just a 1 month thing. It's like it continues forward, as in, hey, even though this bad event happened in, let's say, March, if you allow it to continue to cloud your mind for the next few months, it will still be there. But if you allowed yourself to say, hey, this bad thing happened in, February, I know March, okay, that's why I feel this way. And I've also worked on it. And I also know April, I worked on it and I feel this way because of XYZ. And I've been working on it so that by the time it comes around in a year, because I've definitely had a few friends, you know, in their lives, which sucked, still sucks, but like you learn how to transform it into, oh, they did it because they were sad, and into they did it because they were asking for help and they weren't getting it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm still here and I can still ask for help and I can still ask for help for other people, and we don't have to. I support their decisions,
Yeah.
but just knowing that what they went through, I hopefully, at least for myself, I don't have to allow other people to go through that.
Yeah.
And if they're going through that, I can at least be a voice. Like I'm not a martyr in any way, shape, or form, but it's really just that one person to be in Mean Girls when Regina George, they were trying to like make fun of her, the mean girl, but like the
Yeah.
queen bee, and she put on her little tank top and they cut out the little
Oh
things on
yeah, the
her
little holes.
boobs. Yeah,
Yeah.
little holes on her boobs. And she was like, huh, I think I look cute. And she was just like, whatever. And she's like walking out of like the locker room. And everybody else was like, oh, that looks cute. Like,
Yeah,
that's
she
kind
started a
of
trend.
right. Like, I don't want to start a trend of like, oh, yeah, like if you have mental health issues, like, that's cool. But I want it to be like, oh, if you have mental health issues, like, it's not seen as you're the problem. It should be seen as, okay, well, like, that's okay. Do you need a hug? What do you need from me?
Yeah, exactly. You're right, because it shouldn't be looked as a problem. It's because it's not a problem, it's something that you live with and it's something that you work on.
Exactly. Like, I mean, if you have, honestly, everybody has mental health issues, which, and a lot of people don't want to admit that, even if they're like, oh, it's just ADD. And I'm like, well, that's still mental health. Oh, well,
Exactly.
it's just a little bit of depression. Like, okay, but that's still mental health. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I just get, sad occasionally. Okay, well, that still has to do with your mental
Mental
health.
health. Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
you don't have to go through like World War I and II in order to be seen with like mental health issues. Like, it's a, if you don't fix it the second you're able to, then that's when you end up in trouble.
Yep, yep, you're right, because it can go down a long, winding road of bad habits that you pick up and bad coping skills that you deal with, and not getting the help that you need can really, really throw you down on the ground.
Yeah, and that's not it's not funny, but it's really just like, yeah, I mean, just a segue, like, so let me see. I When I first started therapy, it was 2016. Excuse me, the end of 2015. So I'd say 2016, but like whatever. Beautiful lady, she was amazing. The way she said my name was just I can't even replicate it. She said, so my name is Aleana, but she would say my name Aleana, but the way that she would say it wasn't condescending or anything. It
Yeah,
was just really like, I'm giving you a hug with my words by saying your
yeah, like
name.
comforting.
Yeah, and I'd never really heard that before, but so my let me see, that was when I was unmedicated and I had really bad coping skills, which was I used to self-harm.
Yep, been there.
Be- yeah, and
Yep.
that was for me, that was the only way that I could find comfort. That was also about a year and a half into, hold on, 2016. That was about 2 years into jujitsu, which was, I haven't done jujitsu since 2018.
Okay.
That sounds right. Hold on. Yeah, that sounds right. 2014 to 2018 is when I did jujitsu, which honestly that was the best form of self-harm, but also self-love, because you come home from practice, you're in the shower, you have bruises all over you because of new positions you were trying, new whatever. You're like, oh, like I tackled this person or this person tackled me, but you're like, oh, cool, like I'm slightly injured in ways that are appropriate to society.
Yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, okay, but then the times, and I can tell this from experience, the times that you had a really bad day when you had, like, let's say 2 day break from jujitsu, which I mean usually most people don't go to the Sunday practice or even the Monday morning practice. So that's technically, if you say Saturday, I don't know, 11 a.m. practice until Monday, 7 p.m., like that's technically 2 days,
Yeah.
whatever. If you're like, oh, I had a really bad day in between that, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I decided to self harm. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, like someone's either going to see it or they're going to break, whatever injury it is that you gave yourself back open. And you're like, okay, well, like that's embarrassing to yourself because you're like, crap, like I can't fully do what
Yeah.
the athlete in me is instructed to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's that. But yeah, I saw my first therapist in what, yeah, 2016, amazing. I saw, let me see, I saw a really awful guy after her. The reason why I didn't stick with her is because we got very far and then she said, I'm so sorry, I can't help you past this point. And
Oh,
for
okay.
me, that made me go, okay, like, is there something wrong with me? She was
Yeah.
wonderful. I have no issue with her. So she was trying to refer me to different people that were educated and qualified. And eventually, well, just to, in a nutshell, I'm with the person that's like super qualified right now. So
Okay.
it's not like it's, oh, like you'll never find somebody who's qualified to deal with whatever you have to deal with. It's just like at that time, you have to be willing to take the brunts and blows of whatever might come your way and deal with like all the weirdos in between, but you eventually
Yeah.
will find, like, I dealt with one dude, I saw him 3 times, and after that I was like, absolutely not, because it wasn't like he was 2 minutes late for a session. He was like, and this was before COVID. He was, let me see. Our first session, he was 5 minutes late, which I didn't think was an issue, but he came in smelled like cigarettes. So I was like,
Oh, my.
your cigarette break was more important
Yeah,
than
then
my
being in my
session.
session. Yeah,
Right.
that's not cool.
Which I'm like, if you needed a cigarette break, that's totally fine, but like call me, let me know, or schedule your life accordingly. If my session's at 8 a.m. and the office isn't open till 8, that's letting me know that I don't matter to you.
Yep. No,
Like,
you're right.
so yeah, so I saw him 3 times. The second session, I said, I don't actually no, I only saw him twice, excuse me. We had a third session set up. Second session, I was like, hey, I don't like meditation and all of that. Like I don't like feeling calm,
Yeah.
especially in situations where I don't feel calm.
Yeah.
And he spent most of that session saying, okay, like close your eyes, we're gonna like meditate and whatever. And I just sat there and stared at him the entire time. His eyes were closed. I hope that he had a wonderful time. But then at the end of it, I was like, so how do you feel? And I was like, that I told you I don't like meditation. That made me feel uncomfortable. Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. And third session, we had one scheduled. He showed up like, I don't know, it was past 15 minutes late
Oh
without
gosh.
him calling or texting me. And I just left. And I was like, I said, don't talk to me. Don't call me. Don't, almost like
Yeah,
you
don't
break
even
with like
bother.
yeah, almost like you had like a few bad dates with an ex. Like that's kind of how I responded to him. But I was like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, no, I don't want to deal with you. So,
I feel like sometimes finding a therapist can be like dating because you got to
oh,
find the right person and you have to try him out a couple times. I know with my therapist, I was about to break up with him because like he wasn't I kept on saying that too. I was like, I have to break up with my therapist. He's just not giving me what I need. Like it's not working out for us together. Like he doesn't have enough time
oh,
for me and he's not giving me the right treatment that I need. But yeah, it always makes you feel like you have like this relationship with them like that.
which sucks because I mean, it should really be like a relationship, like a friendship, but
Yeah.
also like if you're relying on your friend to be your therapist, then that's where you've messed up. But then
Yeah.
also, yeah, no, unfortunately, there are a lot of therapists that are in that position that aren't therapists and they should never be therapists.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Because I've
Because
had a couple of bad ones
mm-hmm,
that have been like, "What are you doing? Like, where'd you get your degree from?"
right? Like, I mean, I could, you know, how you can go online and like become a priest in like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Like, is that what y'all did? Because if
yeah,
so, let me know.
exactly. Right. So now the therapist that you have now, did it take a while to find the therapist that you have now?
So therapists have now. So let me see. I went through the first lady, perfect. The other guy, huh? And she didn't recommend him. Like I found him on my own.
Oh, okay.
And let me see. Then I went like probably like 6 months without one, and then I found Vicky, who was fantastic. So I have no problem saying this. Like Flourish, they're located in Only. It's only Onley. I'll call it Only because like that's the only place I would go for therapy.
Yeah.
But she she was my therapist for about just under a year, I want to say. And then she got pregnant, but she was wanting to. We had talked about this ahead of time. Like she was, in the process of like having kids. So
Yeah.
I knew that I would eventually lose her.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
but it's fine because she sent me with one of her cohorts, which honestly, like Rachel at the same location, Rachel, perfect, 10 out of 10, would recommend. Like I have no issues. We not only click, but she's certified in everything. And if she's not, and just like how Vicky was, but like Rachel is certified in everything. And if she's not certified in it, then she will say, "Hey, I want to give you the best, what word am I looking for?
Um.
Ad- Advice, but like a
Yeah.
better, yeah, the best advice that I can give you, but like give me like till next session because like I either know someone or I can take a class or I can do like a
Yeah.
seminar and like have that best answer for you." So yeah, so anyways, right now definitely I'm with the best therapist I could be with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, except when you still have problems and you're like, oh crap, like I've been with you for too long to still be having issues.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. So I guess in between that, so I was unmedicated for most of my life. I was on Zoloft, which is an antidepressant.
Oh, yeah, I've been on that before.
Yeah, so Zoloft, a lot of people Zoloft, what's Prozac,
Yep.
forgot the other one that's like lumped in that. And I was also on Prazosin, which is technically it's a blood pressure medicine, which they give a lot of people that have high blood pressure. My great uncle, he's 94, he's gonna be 95 this year. He was like, I take that too. And I was like, oh bless your heart, but you take it for your blood pressure. Uh but yeah, I also took Prazosin because they also found that doing studies with soldiers with PTSD that if, long story short, if your blood pressure doesn't get raised, then you probably won't have nightmares, or at least as
Oh,
frequently,
okay.
or they won't wake you up as
Yeah.
frequently. So yeah, so I was taking 100 milligram, no, 200 milligrams of Zoloft every morning, and then 2 milligrams of Prazosin in the morning because I'm very jumpy,
Yeah.
like the slightest thing, like a Jack in the Box, my worst nightmare. Like I could get like if something, even if my husband, like he'll walk out of we share the same house. It's just us. We have 3 bathrooms, so we eventually were like, why don't we just like you take one bathroom, I take one bathroom, and like call it a day because we have
Yeah.
three. We don't live in a mansion. We just live in it's just us. But
Yeah.
so like if he pops out of his bathroom at a time when I'm walking in the hallway and like I'm like, oh my god, like I forgot you were there. If I take the Prazosin, my blood pressure doesn't raise, but if I don't take it, then I'm like, oh my god, and I'm like cowering in the corner, and that sounds extreme, but it's really like, okay, like I'm fine, like it's just him, like he's fine, he just went in there to
Yeah.
like cut his hair or to go like change out like the towels in his bathroom because like he's allowed to, and he's about to go work upstairs in the loft. So yeah, so I would take 2 milligrams of Prazosin during the morning because it would definitely help if I got spooked to be like, huh, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I would take 10 milligrams at night because it would definitely help me go to sleep, and it would definitely stop, well, not stop, but it would definitely prevent any nightmares or anything else.
Okay.
Or if I had a nightmare, my blood pressure wouldn't rise, so then I wouldn't be woken up, and I'd be able to get more than just 4 hours of sleep a night.
Okay. Wow, no, I didn't even know that they had medications that did that for PST, for PTSD.
I didn't either until like Rachel.
Yeah,
So
wow. I would have never known that.
yeah, like this world is insane. Like there are medications that they give people that say, oh, this will help you with this, but then like all like the downsides are really like, okay, maybe it's better you just have ADD and like sit in the corner and like try to read a book, and if you
Yeah.
get through it in a month, that's great. Yeah, I hate to say it, like I'm one of the fortunate ones, in my opinion, that found somebody who knows what they're talking about. Has because my Rachel, my therapist, she's not only, I mean, she has her master's and then some, but like she's taken the medications, and she's taking medications, so like she at least can give her own perspective
Oh,
of,
okay.
hey, yeah, I took Zoloft at one point, and like she's not on Zoloft right now, but it's not because it didn't work for her. It's really just because whatever she was doing at the time, she was like, oh, this worked better, and oh, really, my happiness is based on how to handle my ADD, ADHD, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I appreciate people that like I got my nose pierced like one, two, almost 3 years ago. And my
Uh-huh.
husband just got his pierced last night, but he got it pierced by the same lady that I did. And I didn't fight for that. I was like, hey, if you're going to get a pierced, go to like Alex and Concrete Jungle. And he was like, all right, cool. That sounds like a good deal because
Yeah.
mine healed perfectly. I had no issues. Like she's like this beautiful lady. She knows what she's doing. So it's really just whatever you like. I've got my nose pierced once. I'm never getting it pierced again. But like, you know, I guess share what you know and tell people about what you know, because if anything, you're helping them.
Yeah.
If I was like,
Sidebar. I know
Yes.
Alex from Concrete
Oh
Jungle.
my God, don't you,
Yeah, she
oh my
helped me
God.
with my daughter. So I went there. My daughter had her ears pierced, right? And her earring her earring pushed back inside her ear. Like
Oh no.
the
Yeah,
front of the
yeah.
earring started to like her ear started to eat the whole earring. And there was
Ugh.
nothing we could do about it. And so I took her to Concrete Jungle and Alex got it out for her. Sweetest, nicest girl you ever meet.
She
Yeah, freaking
beautiful.
awesome.
She's like racially ambiguous, which part of me is like I love that.
Yeah,
Like you're racially ambiguous. I just I love that because I prefer like even if I'm just Italian, like okay, but like I just love when it's like you can fit into any scenario, at least looks wise. Like
exactly.
I don't care. Yeah, Brian was like, hey, my husband, he was like, I hope you don't mind this, and I'll see he might get mad at me for saying I don't care. He was like, so a girl that you set me up with, she not only made me cry, but she also pierced one of my orifices, and I was like, good, and I was there to witness it. So like, I was like, oh okay, I just want to make sure that was. I was like, no, that's beautiful. Like my because Alex, she put in. I bought a nose ring from her yesterday, right after Brian got hit. My husband got his done, and she was like, she's like, can't really see what the hole is. And I was like, that's because you did a great job.
Yep, exactly.
That's why I was telling my husband because my husband he has his ears pierced and his eyebrow pierced and he wanted his nose pierced and I was like, why not? Like
Yeah. Heck yeah, I love
so.
nose piercings. My mom has her nose pierced.
Oh, his mom. So his mom has her nose pierced twice on the same nostril, and
Oh,
my
wow.
husband was like, I don't want to do that, and I was like, you don't have to. You can just do one. Like she let me see. The first time I ever met her, we went to Cheesecake Factory, and then she got her nose pierced the second time. And part of me in my head, I was like, "This is a weird date, if you will."
Yeah.
Meeting like my mother-in-law for the first time, even though I've already been married to her son for like a year, and she didn't know this.
Oh,
But
shit.
at the yeah, girl. But anyways, like I mean, but now thinking back on, I'm like, that's kind of how their family is. They're like, hey, like let's all hang out and like do this and this and this. And since we're in the like same vicinity, like, oh, you're going to Cheesecake Factory at like Columbia Mall, like you might as well like go to Piercing Pagoda or Padoda, whatever. I haven't been
Yeah,
there.
pagoda. Yeah, I
Thank
know which one you're
you.
talking
Yeah.
about.
So I'm like, yeah, that's not that's not something that I would do, but like, whatever. Live your life.
Exactly, do you? Alright, well, now who would you say are your support system in your life besides your therapist and your husband?
Oh, okay. Let me see on here. So I told you I wrote a list of let me see. So this will sound awful, but the way that I mean it isn't the way that it's gonna come out. So I have like a list of probably 10 best friends, if you will,
Oh, that's good.
but my husband isn't one of them.
Ah.
So I love my husband. I've known him since I was 12, but
Oh my
I've
gosh.
also I've also made the conscious choice that he's not my support system when it comes to mental health because I
Yeah.
feel like that can be extremely dangerous. Like if I'm having a bad day, I can absolutely go to my husband like, "Hey, can you rub my back?" or "Hey, can you tell me like I'm pretty?" or like whatever it is that I
Yeah.
need. He will absolutely bend over backwards, but I'd rather him not be the main point or focus of my mental health. So, because I just feel like that's setting up myself for disaster. Like, oh, hey, my husband's going to take care of me. Like, no, your husband's there to like pick up the pieces and like sweep or vacuum, not
Yeah.
make sure that you're back to normal. Like, that's not his job. Because my husband also has his own mental health issues. But I mean, mental health, there's not like a scale, but I
Yeah.
want to say his isn't as I guess vibrant as mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd rather if he came to me with mental health issues, I'd be like, okay, cool. In the sense of like it's not harming me or distressing me, but I know if I came to him with all of my stuff, then he'd be like, huh, all right. Well,
Like,
let me
whoa.
hold on. Let me call off work for a couple of days so I can like help you with this. So I just want to come to him with the same level. But anyways,
Yeah.
same level as he comes to me with. But yeah. Anyways, so I want to say for so I don't know how deep you want to go with this, but like when you tell your mom like 10 years ago or 10 years, the first person I told about any of my stuff was probably my mom. And the theme growing up in our family was we'll love you through it and whatever you do, we're there for you. That the second part wasn't exactly like verbatim, but the first part was we'll love you through it.
Yeah.
So when you come to your mom with like, hey, this happened, you write them a letter, you say, hey, blah blah, blah, and they say, oh, what? And when your older, fair enough, 18 months, 19 months, maybe older sister had a kid when she was 16. And
Oh,
fair enough, she's
okay.
married. Yeah. And fair enough, she's married to the dad now, and they have one, two, three, four kids, but they were apart for 12 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
anyways, I'm about to be 32. She's about to be 34. So, like, just to give you like a time frame, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, when your sister already, if you want to play this game, committed the ultimate sin
Yeah.
of getting pregnant in high school, and you didn't do any of those sinning issues, or I don't see it as an issue if you talk to your kids about sexual well-being,
Yeah.
then either they're educated or at least they know what they give themselves into. Whereas if as my parents decided not to talk to us about sexual health in the sense of like sex in general, then you end up
Yeah.
with one daughter getting pregnant at 16 and the other daughter, getting her virginity stolen at 19. So like those are your two options. That sounds
Yeah.
awful. That's not everybody's story, but that's just for me. But yeah. Uh Unfortunately, my sister and my mom, my dad, bless his heart, I'm gonna say what I say. He's in a misery type situation, like Stephen King, Kathy Bates misery type
Oh,
situation.
gosh.
Yeah, like he has stage 4 lung cancer. He's he's been my biggest supporter forever. But even though my mom hasn't had a job in 30 years, and I'm not, stay at home moms are like, honestly, they do more than we could ever imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But just when you're a stay at home mom and your husband pays the phone bill, but you don't let him use the phone, that's where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. But in a nutshell, like biggest supporters, I want to say, I've had my best friend Philip. I was the best man at his wedding. We've been best friends since we were 19 in college.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
why we're friends. Like it almost doesn't make sense, but like it really does. So I have like my best friend Philip. I have my best friend Chloe. She technically has a room in my house, but she hasn't lived with us for like 2 years. But it's really just she was in the middle of a divorce, and I was like, hey, like just come live with us
Yeah.
because I'd rather you have an address that you can call your own, where you're not going to be bothered. But also, she has her own mental. All of my friends have like mental health issues, but it's really just like, okay, my best friend Philip, like he hasn't talked to his parents, mostly his mom, in like probably 2 years. His daughter just turned 2 on Christmas. Excuse me,
Oh,
just turned 1 on Christmas. So it'll basically going on 2 years before they even see her, if you will, because
yeah.
yeah. But let me see. Oh, one of my main, yeah, I have 5 main friends that I talk to like on a regular basis. But my other one, Chef Doyle, he's actually at the Super Bowl right now,
Oh,
plating.
really?
Yeah, he's plating menus and plating whatever. He's feeding the players and the staff and who I don't know what he does for a job. I probably should, because we've been really good. I talk to him every day on the phone, and I don't know what he does for a living. I just know that he gets paid big money to be like the head chef.
Wow, that's what's
So
up.
yeah, I just know that he's at the wherever the Super Bowl is. Like he's there, and he sent me pictures of like him plating like cheese and charcuterie boards and whatever. I'm like, all right, that's cute, but like, can you call me back because I had a question about this? But yeah, in a nutshell, biggest supporters have not been family, or I guess blood related, which that sucks. Like sister definitely, she's been mad at me for since October or August, I want to say. In a nutshell, her husband yelled at me and told me that my depression doesn't matter. So I politely said, and when I say politely, it's not, there's no polite way to say it, but I said, fuck
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I hung up on him. I don't talk like that to people. That's disrespectful, whatever you want to say. But like, and a couple months later, she said, can you apologize to him? And I said, wait, that happened in August and it's like November, December. Like,
Yeah.
okay. I said, sure. But like, all right. So I apologized to him. He again yelled at me and he hung up on me this time, which I was like, all right. And I really wish that there was more to the story of like, oh, like I'm a petty person or whatever, but there's not. But like that's okay. But just knowing who's there to support your mental health. If your parental unit ever looks at you and says, what were you wearing? Why were you there? Well, you shouldn't have done that. Well, you knew it was going to happen. Well, like stuff like that happens all the time. Well, that didn't happen to me, but it's happened to people that I know. Like, if you hear that, it hurts, but you need to follow up with, okay, but I just know that about a year and a half ago, I recorded my mom a conversation because my therapist let it know. She said narcissism,
Oh,
and that's
okay.
all she said. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right. So I recorded my mom without her knowledge, which I would never release this to anybody. I just have to get it for myself. So this way, I know I'm
Yeah.
not being like gaslit. But like narcissism, it's number one, it's not their fault. If they are a narcissist, it's not their fault. It's almost like saying, this is the best thing that I can go with. Like saying like I'm barely 5'1". Like, oh, why are you so short? Like, oh, well, it's not her fault that she's like 5'1".
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly.
not her fault that she's short in stature, or it's not Chao Ming or whatever his name is. Like, it's not his fault that he's like over 7 feet tall and he's like
Yeah.
Chinese. Like, it's not his name is not Chao Ming. It's Ming. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I know who you're talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, like it's not. It's looking past that. It's like, okay, what have they done with what they've been given? Like narcissism. There's different levels to it,
Mhm.
and on top of that, it's not their fault. But also because it's not their fault, we don't have to agree with everything that they say and listen to
Yep.
everything they say. But with that being said, being gaslit, like I was like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and stand. I'm not going to. I need to know that. You ever have like a moment where you're like, okay, am I the crazy person, or am I just hearing stuff that makes me
Oh, yeah.
feel like I'm crazy?
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. And of course, I've been hit with the, oh, you shouldn't record your mom. And I'm like, well, you didn't listen to the recording. I'm the only person that has it, and I'm the only
Yeah.
person that's listened to it. So, like, stay over there. But just knowing that I'm not the only person that's.
Sorry, could you
I,
hear that in the
no,
background?
you're fine. Yeah, no, that was amazing. No, you're fine. That was amazing.
In the background, my son's playing his video game.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. That's what I was like, oh.
Yeah, he's loud. I have the door shut and he has his door shut, I think. So
No,
he's super
it's
loud.
fine. Yeah, that's why I'm in the loft in my house, so that like, because my husband's downstairs like vacuuming and whatever, so that yeah. But yeah, just realizing, I guess the biggest part with like supporters and mental health is realizing what you own, what the other person owns. And it's not excusing behaviors. It's really just saying, like, for example, my mom is a narcissist. That's what she is. She can't control that. What
Yeah.
can I control? How that fits into my life.
Yep.
My dad is not a narcissist, but my dad is a hoarder. That's another mental health type thing.
Yeah, it
But
is.
that's also because his dad got blown up in Vietnam when he was 17. So he's afraid to throw anything away that would relate to his dad or the military or anything that my dad might need. He's a hoarder in that
Yeah.
sense. Like my dad has just about everything that his dad has ever owned that my dad could get a
Okay.
hold of. So I'm like, that those kinds of things, I'm like, okay, like I took the time to sit back and be like, okay, like, you know what, that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
like, because my dad's one of three, but my dad and his sister are just like my sister and I, like, we're like 18 months apart. Like, they're what my dad's dad passed, they were what, like 15 or 16 and 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then his brother was like 5. So his brother doesn't remember their dad at all. But I mean, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I don't know if that's good or bad, though, like, not
Yeah.
knowing who your dad is. Or, well, typically 5-year-olds have memories, but when your dad's like been overseas since you were born, then you're like
Yeah,
have
you
no
barely have a
memories.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just know that my dad's youngest brother, the one that I just mentioned, who was 5 when his dad passed, myself, my dad's youngest brother, and their 94-year-old uncle, who I mentioned earlier, they're both recovering alcoholics. They both have led crazy lives, and I appreciate that. But they're also, so my Uncle Chuck, and then Uncle Hank, who is the 94-year-old, they've been my biggest supporters
Oh, okay.
because they know how it feels to be the black sheep.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been the black sheep, although I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, whatever. I'm in a healthy, like, oh, I got married. I technically eloped with my husband. We dated for 3 months and then we got married without anybody knowing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I knew him. We dated for 2 days in like seventh grade, but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But we dated for 3 months. We got married. We lived in our parents' houses respectively and his dad is like 2 minutes from my parents' house, which was perfect, but also, and just being able to work on all of that and realizing, at least from my perspective, we will never. My husband and I will never have the "oh, I'm tired of you" type situation, just because we spent an entire year apart, because a lot of people are able to, like, either live together or have more freedom, whereas, like, my house, I was like, yeah, you can't come stay at my house even if you're my boyfriend but you're actually my husband, and vice versa. My husband's Jamaican, but, like, anyways, and so we'll never have that. Oh, I'm tired of you, because we lived for an entire year apart. But anyways, I've been trying to deal with my mental health, just like, okay, how do I try to pull this whole? How do I work on myself and make sure that you know everybody has been through stuff, and if they say that they haven't, they're mostly lying,
Yep.
or they've been very blessed. And if they're very blessed, they deserve all the blessings to come to them.
Yeah.
But, like, everybody's been through something, but just how do I not continue a cycle of, if I'm having a bad day, I don't want to put that on anybody else.
Yeah. No, I know. I know what you mean about that one.
Yeah, because it's like, even if you're having a bad day or a bad moment, doesn't mean that everybody else around you is. But also knowing who you can be like, I'm having a bad moment. We don't need to talk about it, but, like, hey, Chef Doyle, I know that you're at, like, the Super Bowl right now, which you should be here because I had a question about the sloppy joes I'm going to cook later, but it's fine. But, like, hey, can we talk about XYZ? So, yeah, just in a nutshell, I've been off medic. I was on Zoloft and Prozosyn for like a year and a half. I got off it only because our health insurance ran out because my husband lost his job. He got a new one back, which,
Oh,
thank
okay.
God.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now I nanny. But I still don't have a job according to the IRS. But yeah, but yeah, I went through CPT. I went through a lot of different. CPT is oh my God, I should know what it's called. It's basically where you take one piece of your trauma,
Uh-huh.
one specific incidence instance, sure, and you, like, dive into that one instance, and it's like, oh, the magic school bus, and it's like, oh, Miss Frizzle's like, hey, what are we going to do today? And it's like, well, Arnold was having, like, stomach problems. We're going to figure out why his stomach's upset. And it's like, well, there's more to do with the body than just Arnold's stomach. And it's like, yeah, but, like, if we figure out why Arnold's stomach is upset, we can figure out maybe the end result is because a giant ass school bus is like going through like his like esophagus and like diving
Exactly.
into like his, small intestine and whatever, and like then we figure it out. So
So with the CPT, how did you feel like you got something out of it? Like, was it helpful to you?
Jesus Christ. I mean, definitely yes. If I wasn't on medication during that, I may not still be here, and that's not being funny. That's being like realistic,
Yeah.
because it really. So, in a nutshell, CBT says, "Hey," and also I was with Rachel, my therapist, but like she's certified in it,
Yeah.
and she's done multiple people with it. Yeah, she would say, first, I thought it was, so it's supposed to be a 12-week course, but if you need more outside of that, because some trauma is trauma, and
Yeah.
trauma doesn't have a timeline. But
No, that's true.
yeah, trauma's like, okay, like, oh, that hurts your feelings. That's cool. Like, either it's gonna hurt your feelings forever, or like there's no timeline.
Yeah.
So she would say, hey, like, think about and fair enough, my first introduction with Rachel wasn't CPT. Like, she was my therapist for like at least like a couple weeks before this, but
Okay.
she would say, hey, like, think of your worst, traumatic experience. And I would think, and I would be like, okay. Like, oh, it's probably this or this or this. And she's like, okay, cool. So write down the narrative of like exactly what happened. It's supposed to be 8 pages written down. I'm an overachiever, so mine was like 20-ish pages. But, handwritten, like not typed up or anything. And I was like, okay. And so I thought, like, okay, cool, that's it. And she was like, okay, so now read it to me. And I'm like, okay.
Oh.
So the point of CPT is to read through it multiple times yourself and also with your
Okay.
therapist, and just realizing, what are your step points? Highlight, mark where like it causes you grief, causes you pain. So like read a certain part, even
Yeah.
if it's, oh, like I was, I got dressed and I put on my nope, rug.
Regrets?
Thank you, Jesus Christ. I was thinking, because I just gave away one of my nephews a pair of like Rugrat socks, and I was like, oh no, they're Rugrats now. Like, they're not mine. Yeah. Uh, what causes you pain, what causes you stress. And so you eventually, if you can figure out it, it's really to like dissecting a poem, where you see a poem and you're like, oh, like this is like a slanted rhyme, and this is, oh, a euphemism, and this is blah, blah. Like, if you basically take all of that and you just write down, I guess the end goal is really just to be able to read through your own narrative that you wrote yourself
Yeah.
and say, okay, I can get through the whole thing without having to stop, or without having to be like, oh my God, this is awful. Even if it is an awful story, just being like, Stephen King wrote it and it's fine. And
Yeah.
we're just going to put those back on the shelf, and it's there if we need it, so that we know that we're validated. But like, it can
Yeah.
live on the shelf with next to Carrie and It and The Stand and whatever else. So
And now what so do you take medications now or no?
I don't take medication now. I personally think that I should be back on medication, even if it's just being back on Prazosin, which is the blood pressure medicine. It's classified as a blood pressure medicine because it, if you get upset, then it doesn't make you go,
Yeah.
oh, you go like, oh, oops, you spooked me, you got me. So, because we have health insurance again, I would like to get back on at least Prazosin. Zoloft, I loved Zoloft. Zoloft, antidepressant, no issue. The only issue I had with that was I had the rarest form of, I guess, side effect, which was abnormal yawning.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
So it just make you yawn a bunch?
I would yawn. I would yawn at the most inappropriate times. Like, if I'm in
Oh
a,
gosh.
yeah, back when I used to work at Extra Space, like if we were in a meeting, then I would have to say, oh, hold on, I have to like put my camera on mute and like go yawn in the corner, because it would be the most inappropriate times to yawn. And it's like, I'm not tired, I'm not bored. It's really just,
It's a side effect.
Yeah, and that's one of the rare side effects. But I'm like, okay, because a lot of people, some people with antidepressants get weight gain, or they might get acne, or
Yep.
whatever. And that was the only one I got, which was, I call it inappropriate yawning, because I'm like, because they'd be like, "Oh, girl, I love you," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I love you too." And it's like, ooh, that's not how that's supposed to go.
Oh
So,
gosh.
or you want to raise? Oh, yeah, I want to raise.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you want to hang out? Oh, yeah, I'm free. When you want to go? Like,
Well, now what do you think people most what do people most misunderstand the most? Wait, I'm saying this wrong. What do people misunderstand the most about your illness, do you think?
well, see, that was a perfect like example, because a lot of people can't even like understand or explain it correctly, and firsthand. Like, all
Yes.
right, uh, I guess a lot of people think like, oh, you're crazy, or like there's something wrong with you, or you did something that caused this. Like, from experience, we didn't sit in a corner or sit in like the Hey Arnold Helga closet with like, a whole bunch of confetti and like, oh, let me pray to like the gods of the Everlord or whatever. Like, that's not how we ended up with mental health issues.
Yeah,
It's just, it happens to everyone. Every single person on this planet has mental health issues,
very much so.
and it doesn't matter how big or small it is, because it depends on the person. It's really just, a lot of people say, like, I know when I decided to go on medication, I was like, I think this is the best thing for me. And it definitely was, because I would not have survived CPT without it. But I know that, my immediate feeling was like, oh, why are you on medication? And I'm like, well, are you helping me with anything? You're not? Okay. So,
Yeah,
like, sit in the corner. It's
exactly. Have a seat.
fine. Yeah. Have a seat. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not affecting you at all. I'm also living in my own house that my husband and I bought together. So, like, it's fine. Like, go sit over there.
Do
I'm
your
sharing this
thing.
with you because, like, I want to be open and honest, but, like, go over there. But I guess the biggest misconception is that, oh, can't you, oh, I've heard this so many times, and I don't know if you have, and if you have, I'm so sorry for bringing it back up. But like, can't you just get over it?
Oh gosh, so can't you just get over it? Yes. I've
That's
heard that
my
one so many times. Yes.
it's my favorite. It's not my It's my favorite. I've heard that. Let me say, I had two very close friends and their lives, and I heard right after that from close my family members, "Can't you just get over it?" And I'm like, no.
No, it's not that. Don't you think if I could just get over it, I would have done that? No, I like
And
sitting in this. I just like sitting here like this all the time.
you caught me. I love being sad. Oh my god. Yep. You caught me. Yeah, that's why I have like the notebook and me before you on like repeat. Like, you caught me. That's Yeah. Can't you just get over it? Like, yeah, sure. And that's, well, one of the ones that I used to teach Catholic education for teenagers, which is basic whatever. My friend that ended his life, that was a week before our session on suicide and other tough topics. That's what it
Yeah.
was called. So I'm like, can I just get over it? I was like, sir, we've been teaching this for like 5 years, and he, decided to end his life right before that. I don't take that personally. It's just, it was going
Yeah.
on with him. But I'm like, no, I can't just get over this. This is, it's
That's
not
not
just
how that
like,
works.
yeah, it's not just like, oh, that homeless dude in the corner, like, he's not there anymore. Oh, damn. Can't you just get over it? Probably that, sure, because I didn't know him. I didn't even know his name.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. So I guess my biggest thing is, can't you just get over it? But just, some people want attention, but also realizing that some people, they don't want attention, they need attention because they're not getting it.
Yep.
And because they haven't gotten the attention that they need or crave, and it's not even about like, it's really, everybody loves to be included. So my favorite thing, Corona, pandemic, whatever, definitely like messed this whole up. People that got the virus, it's really just, if you know that you're gonna have, let's say, a party at your house, and there's like 10 people you want to invite, if it, well, let's say there's five people you definitely know like will show up, but then you're like, oh, there's like, at least five other people, so like 10 total. Like, invite those other people. And even if you're like, hey, I know that you probably, you live an hour away or like whatever, invite those people mainly so that they know that they're being thought of. They know that they're not
Yeah.
alone. If they
Yeah.
can show up, they probably will. Or, maybe they'll call you and be like, hey, I can't be there, but like, let's, FaceTime for like 5 minutes. Or just, I think the biggest thing with mental health is just if you actually care about the people that are
Yeah.
in your circle or even in like your outer circle, just check in with them and just
Yep.
know that if they're reaching out to you for whatever reason, just be like, hey, like, I love you. Maybe I don't know what you're going through. I think that's the biggest, thing to say. I don't know what you're going through, because worse if people are like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like, no, you don't know what I mean. I didn't give you a
Exactly.
I didn't give you a definition of a word. I said, hey, this happened. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. You do? I don't. Like, one of my friends, he's been adopted, he was adopted. He grew up in like Flint, Michigan. I don't know anything about none of those topics. So I would never look at him and be like, yeah, I know what you mean. I'd be like, well, I love you. And I know what
Exactly.
it
I'm here
means
for
to
you.
love. Yeah. Like, I know what it means to like love another person. And like, yeah, like, I got you. And like, oh, I work at this job. Oh, I've worked there too. Like, I know what you mean with that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I guess the biggest thing is just if you actually care about somebody, just, especially mental health, know that every single person has mental health issues,
Yep.
whether it affects your everyday life or doesn't. It still affects you in some way, shape, or form. And just treat them the way that you would want, I guess, a loved one of yours, a child, a grandparent. I know, because a lot of people are really like, I wouldn't treat like my grandparents like garbage. So like,
Yeah.
okay, so don't treat other people. Yeah, it's a the more that we work on making it, also just make it like, hey, if you need to talk, I'll listen, but don't be like, oh yeah, I'll offer advice. Like, I'm obviously trained in that. Just like, yeah, if you need advice, I'm not here for that. But if you need somebody to talk to,
Listen.
or just,
Yeah.
yeah. So just destigmatizing it, I guess, and just like, oh, mental health, like, hey, I can't come into work today. I need a mental health day. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no, there isn't actually. I know, and a lot of jobs actually are getting a lot better with that too. Like people, they're being like understanding about people taking mental health days. And I know, like for my daughter, she's 10 and she has anxiety issues also. And
No.
she had to, yeah, poor thing. And I don't know if it's nature versus nurture, if it's environmental. Like I know that it's definitely hereditary, but at the same time, I think that I was such a I'm so I try my best not to be an anxious person, but I'm so full of anxiety that I think sometimes I've made her anxious. This hasn't helped
Oh.
the situation at all. But she needed a mental health day. Like, and I let her stay home from school. Like she just really needed one. When I talked to the school about it and I was open, like I wasn't like, oh, she's sick, and they were like, oh no, we totally get it. And they totally understood the fact that she needed a mental health day.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting that like even now at school and at workplaces, people are understanding that people need mental health days.
Just to let you know, like, that is phenomenal. Just to like, the more that you let her know that like what she's going through is, even to her, it might seem foreign. Like, it's normal to be like, I need, I'm having depression, I'm having anxiety, I'm having just like, I dealt with all of my mental health issues the day before and I just need like a day to recoup. Like, that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that is excellent. Just excellent job being a mom, because
Oh,
if,
thank you.
no, I mean that. Like, the more that you're able to just be like, yeah, like, you have issues or feelings, because the more that people ignore them, that's when they grow. Whereas,
Yep.
because you said your daughter's 10, like, if she's like,
Yeah.
God forbid, she's still having issues when she's 12, 14, 16, hopefully she's able to be like, hey mom, I'm good, but like, I just, I'm having like these feelings of like, just my heart is like pounding really fast and I feel like I can't see sometimes. And you'd be like, oh, it's probably anxiety again. Like, it's okay. Like, come here, just like
Yep.
go lay in bed and we gonna deal with it afterwards.
Exactly. That's what we do. We're very open in our family about mental health. Like my kids, they know because I have anxiety really badly, and then I have ADHD, and then I'm bipolar, and
Mm.
so um, And so my kids, like, we talk about mental health issues, and we talk about depression, and we talk about anxiety, we talk about,
Mhm.
because we have a long line of all those things in our family. And so my daughter actually sees a therapist too, and both my kids see,
Oh, wow.
yeah, to help her learn how to self-regulate her emotions. Because yeah,
Aw.
because it's so hard, like, when you're little and you have anxiety, it's a really big feeling to have when you're so little. And so
Yeah.
for her to learn how to, like, properly, like, coping mechanisms and stuff like that, so she goes to therapy for that. And it's working out though, how it's helping her a lot. I've seen an improvement in her a lot.
Oh my god, that I mean, real talk, that is so amazing because a lot of like my parents were boomers. I'm assuming yours were probably as well, but
Yeah.
like I don't have kids yet, but I just know that because my parents were boomers, they were like, "Oh, like you need therapy." Like, no, like for example, my dad, black man, grew up in DC, and it was really like you're already black on top of whatever else you might be going through. You can't go through both. You got to either be black and get over it or deal with
Yep.
your depression, anxiety, whatever.
Exactly.
So then it was like, yeah, no, we're just going to deal with being black and being 7 and, 65 and like deal with that and then like move
Uh-huh.
forward. And I've gotten flack from that because it's like, well, you're not black. I'm like, well, my dad is. So like,
Yeah.
s-
Like
see me
that.
on the, what do you want? Yeah. So, oh my God, just random side note. I remember because my parents were born like a year apart, and let me see. Oh, we were talking about something to do with DC, or no, we were talking about something to do with uh Black History, no, Civil Rights Movement or whatever it was. And my mom was like, "Oh, I don't have to deal with that." My white mom, 6 years old in Okinawa, Japan, on an army base. She's
Oh
like, "Yeah, we
my.
don't have to deal with that." And but I was like, speak for yourself, because he was 7 years old, black in DC, and I'm like, okay, mom, like
Yeah, he
stay over
definitely dealt
there.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not just that just goes with the whole like, okay, like if your kid, nephew, niece, whoever in your world, cousin, yourself needs like, there's nothing wrong with having a therapist.
Yep.
People need to, because also a lot of people have therapists that they really just see to have a person to talk to.
Yep.
You
That's
don't
so
have to
true.
you don't have to go through like a traumatic thing to have a therapist. Like a lot of people have or should have a lot of people that I know have a therapist just so this way they have like an extra person to talk to, and they're like, hey, like financially XYZ, or like, oh, we have family therapy once a month, but that's really, or not family, marital counseling, just to make sure
Yeah.
that like if they have any issues, they know that there's an extra person to talk to, but that they
Yeah.
don't have to talk to that person. Like, also, if your kid knows, at the age of 10, like, oh, there are outside sources just in case, that's her mind will be so open to be like, oh, I'm not like trapped like under my bed, like with my thoughts. And it's like, okay, well, like,
Exactly.
if I'm like, hey, mommy, madre, whatever, mama dear, whatever she calls you, then it's like, hey, I would like to go to a group, or I would like, a group, because they have therapy is not just one on one. It's like sometimes one on three. There's
Oh
group
yeah.
sessions. Yeah, I just think that's phenomenal because like that's just setting her up for success and technically setting you up for success because then you can hopefully one day be like, she got this. I don't have to deal with her no more. I mean, you're gonna
Exactly.
love her, but like
Yeah, yeah, but she'll be able to handle it on her own.
yeah, her mental health won't be your, I guess, responsibility as much as it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you say that about how you were saying how you feel like everyone should have a therapist or whatever. And it's funny because my son, he's 12, and when they first started therapy, he was like, wow, mom, I think everyone should really have somebody to talk to. And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, I was like, you're right. Everyone should have somebody to talk to.
oh,
Yeah. So they do really good in it. They like it a lot.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And actually I'm getting ready to do this program. It's called IOP. It's intensive outpatient program. So, yeah,
oh,
so I've had to hospitalize myself in the past. Like I voluntarily have hospitalized myself, and when I did, I always would be like a fucking rock star in there. Like I'd go to the group therapy, I'd be rocking, I'd be sharing my emotions. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I need to share about this and I need to share about that and I just want to get myself better and da da da." Like I shine when I go in there. So,
But
but
then you come back home.
exactly. And it is a whole nother world when I come back home. If it's not right there in front of my face, I do not do as well with it. So there's this program now that the hospital, it's at Johns
Hmm.
Hopkins, and it's a day program. It's Monday through
Uh-huh.
Friday, 9:30 to 12:30. And it's like group therapies. You get group therapy, you get to see a psychiatrist, you get to see a therapist, and it's anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks program depending on how much you need to do it. And
Hmm.
yeah, and I'm on the waiting list right now. It's supposed to be going in March, I think. I'm supposed to start the program in March. So hopefully it'll help. Because my therapist, like I said, my therapist right now, I only get to see him about once a month. And it's just not enough for me.
Oh
Yeah, I know,
no.
I know. Well, his workload is so big. He has a really heavy workload.
Oh.
And and for a while, I was doing this really bad habit of going into therapy and only venting and not actually doing the work. Like I would just go in there and vent and bitch for 45 minutes, and
Oh
I
my
wouldn't
God,
really be doing,
yes.
yeah, I wouldn't, or I would turn into like this one woman comedy show and I just sit there and like just talk and laugh and vent about stuff in like a
If there
comical
was like,
manner.
okay, well, let me make notes on this, and whenever she's done, I'll.
Exactly.
Oh, our time's up. Okay, well,
Yep, and that's exactly what was happening. So I was like, okay, I need more than just what I'm getting out of therapy. So I'm going to start this program soon, which will be really helpful.
that's amazing. Yeah, I wrote that down. I was hospitalized for it's supposed to be 72 hours, but I sweet talked my way out, so I was only in there for 14 hours. It's not funny. It's really just like because I was like, uh, yeah, I was my ex before my husband, who he was really bad guy, but it's fine. You learn or you don't.
Yep.
So yeah, he what was it? Oh, so he called the police and was like, "Oh, XYZ, like she's gonna kill herself." And I was like, "Well, this was in a response to his text. He was like, "You should just kill yourself." And I was like, "All right, maybe I will." Which fair enough. Like I probably should have responded like that, but also like, why would you text me
Tell
that?
somebody that. Yeah.
Whatever. Here we are. So, but yeah. So, anyways, the cop showed up, and I did have a few fresh like scars on
Yeah.
my arm, and I was like, oh crap, and I was like,
You're like,
damn
damn
it.
it.
But also, my sister is a Howard County cop, so like, I mean, that on top of I already had like a solid like therapist that I was meeting on a regular basis, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah. And I was like, oh, can I call my therapist and let him know I can't make it tomorrow? And they're like, oh, like you could probably get out. And I was like, okay, well,
Okay,
like,
that works.
so, because part of me was like, I don't need to be in here when I didn't feel out of place. I more so was like, there are probably other people that physically need the help rather than like
Yeah.
if mentally like I'm losing my shit, then it's like I don't need to take up a bed of somebody that physically
Yeah.
and yeah, all of that. Like I don't think I'm better than them. I was just like, yeah, I can do my therapy. Like you can, if you want to put me in a jacket and with like a lock on it, that's fine. Because I used to be a avid self harmer. So like, if that's that's fine.
Like,
But like,
that's what you think I need.
yeah, but like, I don't need to take up space from somebody that actually needs it, but they don't know why they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if I'm allowed to say what my trauma is based from.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, mine is based from. I have 12 rapes on my record. On my record, I don't even have a record, but like 12 rapes on my record. And then also my mom used to. It wasn't that often, but it was enough. She used to physically abuse me. It was like probably. It was definitely more than 3 times, less than five, but it was enough when I was like. My mom is like 5'7", 5'8", 220, and I'm
Okay.
5'1".
Oh
Then
gosh,
I was
yeah,
like
that's a big difference.
125. Now I'm like one maybe 45. Like I'm a little human, which is fine. But like
Yeah.
if you have somebody that's definitely bigger than you, like pushing you around or like shoving you or like punching at random times, like it's like That's not what you're supposed to do. Nothing about that
Yeah,
is
no.
funny.
No, not at all.
If it's a little person, like if my mom, like if I was like 5'7", 5'8", 220, like my mom was like 5'1", and she like pushed me, I would think it was funny.
Yeah.
Because like, and then it's like, okay, like, all right, little munchkin, like go over there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, because also I'm like, okay, like you can't hurt me because like you're little, but like if you're definitely bigger than me, then it's not, there's nothing funny about that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, my dad's never abused me at all. If it honestly, you know what? It's his fault. So I was suspended once in school, but I was always in the principal's office because it's his fault. My dad, because like I said, he grew up grew up black. He grew up black. He grew up knowing that even if you have like mental health issues, it's worse to have mental health issues and be black because you can be white and have during that time period.
Hmm.
That's a hill I would die on. But anyways, he would teach me words. He'd be like, "Go to bed," and I'd be like, "Why?" He'd say, "Stop being obstinate." So I would say, "What's that mean?" He was like, "Figure it out." So I would take words like that, obstinate, nonchalant. I would take those words and go to school and like my art teacher in middle school would say, "Oh, why don't you stop doing this?" And I say, "Don't be obstinate." And she would say, "What's that mean?" I said, "Figure it out." And so I would end up in the principal's office because the teachers wouldn't know what that meant either. And I'm like, "Oh, they're dumb." And my dad would say, "Aleana, ugh." And I would get in trouble because then it's really just like it's on him and I to be like, okay, well,
Yeah.
but I appreciated that because like I definitely knew a lot. I knew a lot of I would cuss out my teachers without cuss words in the sense where they
Yeah.
it would hurt the same amount, but they wouldn't know what I was saying. It's like so yeah, but yeah, mental health is a bitch, but you know what? I'm glad that you and I are in a area or at least a time in a time in life where it's not as taboo as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Especially like you said in the black community because in the black community the stigma is still trying to get over itself. Like but like in the
Mhm.
black community though, like you didn't talk about it. Like my mom always says that like you didn't talk about going to the hospital. You didn't go to the hospital. You didn't talk about how like going to see a therapist. You didn't go see a therapist. You just dealt with it and you didn't
Yep.
speak up. And I'm glad that like it's not so much like that anymore. At least the general stigma is not so much like that. It's still like that kind of a lot in the black community, but I think it's starting to come out of it. We're now with all the black with everything black mattering now, mental health matters too. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I hate when they're like, "Oh, like Black Lives Matter." I'm like, "No, time out. You missed the point. Like Black Lives Matter, and in order to make the Black Lives matter, you have to make Black Lives matter." So
Exactly.
like it.
Exactly.
Oh, well, I don't agree with that. No, it has nothing to do with whatever. No, I don't care about a movement. I care about like sorry, but not sorry. Like half of my makeup, half of my DNA is black, and like my grandma's black, my great uncle, like they're all black, but they
Black.
also okay. Honestly, like except for not my dad, but like my dad's oldest sister, who's like a year and a half maybe older than him. Like
Uh-huh.
it's like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, like the Banks, like that's kind
Oh,
of how
okay, yeah.
they live their life, and I'm like, that's fine. Like I have no issue with that, but like the rest of them aren't like that. So I'm like, I mean, they're welcoming. They're just like, we're just gonna wear sweaters and like go on vacation like Hawaii every year, and I'm like, that's cute. But yeah, I'm like, okay, but I'm like, you just just in general, like hearing a white person, and also like it doesn't have to do with just black. It's like black, Latino, Asian. Yeah, it's like, oh, you have
Yeah.
mental health issues. Usually, you're like, oh yeah, that's crazy Freddie over there in the corner. Like he just like
Yep.
hopped out the mental institution. It's like that's not. Sometimes it's funny if like it's really meant as a joke, but like overall, it's like that's not funny. Like he deserves to be loved, but also if he's just like crazy Freddy in the corner, like leave him in the corner. But yeah, just
Yeah.
knowing that mental health does not see race or gender or color
Nope.
or religion. It's just
Nope.
like, I'm here and I'm just going to attack whoever I want to attack, and you're going to
Exactly.
heal it yourself or you're not.
Yep. That's so true. That is so true.
Oh my God, I hate that.
Yeah, I know it sucks. It definitely sucks.
It's like, oh, this is like a, diabetes. Oh, is it because you're black? Like, no, like, oh, depression. Oh, it's because you're a human. Ah, yes, gotcha.
Exactly. Oh, yes, human, of course. Now, I want to talk a little bit about self-care. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do for yourself for self-care?
So let me. I told you I made a list of. So let's see. I have coping skill. Well, healthy coping. Well, I don't even call them healthy. I say coping skills and then unhealthy coping skills, so that I
Yeah,
don't get them confused because there's
exactly.
no option. So self care wise, so I don't. I stopped biting my nails probably like 15 years ago. I used to bite my nails all the time.
Yeah, so did I. I stopped doing it too, finally.
Yeah. One of my things. So usually for me, what brings the greatest sense of satisfaction or relief is really just self harm. And while still in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, who's going to tell me no? But I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, because I'm a nanny now, I don't ever. The first day I ever saw, she just turned 1. But the first day I ever saw
Oh,
her look at, like, because I have 2 raised scars on my arm. And the first day that she ever like looked at them, like kind of like touch them, I was like, okay, I can't do this because I don't want her to ever think like that that's a thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So she doesn't, I don't know. So she doesn't think that's a thing. But anyways, so I will paint my nails multiple times, like in the same sitting.
Okay.
And I'll be like, oh, this doesn't look the way I wanted it to. And it could just be like one nail that's like fucked up, but like I'll
Yeah.
still go back through and like take all the paint off and like try it again,
Uh-huh.
because I'm like, that's much better than, the alternative. Definitely my other favorite thing is to take a Sharpie and take like a piece of paper and like just draw like random squiggly lines
Okay.
until like I'm done, like, until I'm done like drawing stuff, and just color it in with a crayon and like watch a movie or whatever.
Oh, that's a smart idea. I like that.
I know a lot of people say like, oh, like wherever you would self harm at, like just drawing that with Sharpie. But I'm like, okay, so let's just say for fun, you decided to do that, or not Sharpie, like a marker. And let's just
Yeah.
say for fun, you decided to do that, but then for some reason you're like, oh, we ran out of hot water, or you're like, oh crap, I ran out of soap in that sitting, like because you're already wet, and you're like, oh, I can't go like get more soap out of
Yeah.
the cabinet, like. So definitely, I've definitely picked up. I love cooking.
Okay.
Yeah, my two, I guess, biggest self harm things is, well, were cutting and then also purging, because I mean they technically both are purging because you're getting
Yeah.
rid of whatever is in your body. But I
Right.
just know the days or the times when I'm definitely just feeling very low, I would make something. It sounds extravagant, but it's not. But my husband loves it. I make beef bourguignon, which is,
Oh,
it's a
wow.
fancy beef stew, but like you make the bacon, you put it aside, you make the beef, you put it a beef chuck, you cut it up correctly, you put it aside, you cook the onions and the carrots, and the you have burgundy wine in there and the beef
Oh,
broth,
wow.
and yeah, you put that aside and you put it all back together, you put some tomato paste. It's like, the more extravagant that I cook, then I'm like, I can't throw this up because this is, I spent
Such a
time and
good,
effort.
yeah.
Yeah, it tastes delicious. It's not like, oh, I went to McDonald's. And I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I went to McDonald's for the first time a couple of days ago, and I had been like probably almost 10 years, and I just got like a medium fry. But I was like, all right, I get it. So, but yeah, just, I guess my main things are knowing what I'm good at and not trying to do something that I know that I'm not good at in those
Yeah.
deep, like those dark times. Like, okay, I know everybody can color. If you have toes, fingers, a mouth, you can color.
Yep.
So just coloring, definitely watching. I watch the same 5 TV shows on a loop. I watch the same probably 10 movies on a loop, like, because I know it's safe.
Yeah. What TV shows do
So,
you like to watch?
oh my God. So I love Orange is the New Black.
Oh, me too.
And I know that there's definitely like a few like suggestive things in there, but I know where they are and I've definitely dealt with them way before. But like
Yeah.
I know if I'm not feeling it, I can just fast forward through that. But
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black, Bob's Burgers,
Oh yeah, I like that.
yo, yes. New Girl.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh my god. It's on Netflix right now, but
Okay.
it's oh my god, 10 out of 10 would recommend it. Beautiful. Let me see. I love King of the Hill. I
Oh
didn't finish
yeah.
it, but like, oh my god, it's so good. I let me see. There's what's fucking Alina, you limited yourself to 5. Da, 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 da. Let me see. Obviously, okay. The Office and Parks and Rec go as
Oh
one.
yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, just TV shows that are lighthearted, but they also make you think. But then they also, I don't know, just yeah, I love those. Just yeah, I've never had it. Let me see. Oh, Always Sunny in almost like Columbia. Nope, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That so I like that show. The first, I think it's the first episode. It might be the pilot episode because I'd seen definitely probably like 5 episodes between like season 1 and 2, and
Uh-huh.
my husband and I were like, oh, we should sit there and like see if like this is a new like season or I guess show we want to watch. And episode 1, my husband thought it was funny, and I was like, yeah, I didn't like that. It's essentially one of the main dudes wakes up and it was alluding to date rape, but the way that they presented it, it wasn't. I it hit me. I don't feel like I'm that sensitive to stuff. Like there are a couple rape jokes I think are hysterical. I wish I
Yeah.
had them off the top of my head, but I don't. But oh, okay. No, I do. Okay, real quick. So like Step Brothers, when like they're the Steve Carell and the curly headed fuck, that's not his name. That's just what he yells at him.
Yeah.
When they're like fighting and he was like, rape, and he was like, my son thought he was gonna be raped with a bicycle. Like that. I thought that was hysterical, mainly
Yeah.
because of the scenario. And I'm like, yeah, that was never gonna happen. There were neighbors
Yeah.
watching, but yeah, like that kind of thing I thought was funny. There are a couple other like rape jokes I think are funny, but then yeah, anyways, just like the date rate. Hmm. Jesus Christ, I do this too much. Date rape thing, like that was just one of those where I was like, I know it's meant to be funny, and like my husband thought it was funny, which I'm like, okay, cool. They hit the main audience, which was people like my husband who hasn't, God forbid, and thank God he hasn't been through
Yeah.
anything like that. But I'm like, huh. And like The Hangover, I love the movie The Hangover, but then there was that moment when they end up at the hospital and they're like, oh, were we raped? And then I was like, oh no, were you? And I was like, oh.
Like,
And
oh
then
gosh.
yeah, and I'm looking at my husband, and my husband was like laughing because not at me, just like at like because he's getting the humor, and I'm like, I'm not the
Yeah.
audience for this, so I should take myself out the equation. I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's like some like certain things or like a mental health, they'll be like, oh, that's like crazy old Jimmy over there, like like he just got out the mental hospital and like they show crazy old Jimmy like in a
Yeah, like in
straight
a straight
jacket or
jacket.
whatever. And then you're like, that's not funny. People actually are in those.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, even if I wasn't like, I understand like Jimmy probably went through some shit to get there.
Exactly.
And it's like,
Exactly.
okay, well, like,
Oh gosh. Well, if you could, okay, so I have a question. So if you could go back
yeah.
and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
So 18-year old beautiful Alina hadn't gone through any shit. So 18, so let's see, 18-year-old me, I would, okay, you know what? How dare you? Because this puts me into two different scenarios
You can have two
because,
different answers.
okay, so I had to make a note. Let's see. So 18-year-old me, where I'm at right now in my life, I would say you going almost like the exorcism of Emily Rose, where like you can either choose to go with us now or you're gonna suffer greatly, but like you're gonna end up in a good place. I would say do nothing different. Like it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be okay.
Because you'll come out
So
the other side.
you're hopefully gonna come out the other side.
Yeah.
So that's one side, but the other part of me, because where I'm at right now, like my husband and I, we bought this house together. I chose to. I mean, he's not like he's not in a marriage he doesn't want to be in, but like I chose where I'm at right now. I chose everything.
Yeah.
So it was really just like, yeah, but anytime honestly, okay, I'm gonna take my husband and pretend like he lives in like on Mars. So outside of him, I would say, so like don't listen to anybody and continue on with college because you're gonna meet like a really wonderful friend that you're gonna have for life, which is my friend Philip. We celebrated our 31st birthdays together. Oh, this is disgusting.
Oh
But
gosh.
anyways, yeah, we've been friends for like 12, 13, I don't know, too long. But I would say, I don't know. I think honestly, I would probably just say, hey, what happens to you is not your fault.
Yep.
And there are people that love you and they're not going to be your family. And that's going to suck and that's going to hurt. But people love you and it's not your fault. And you will find other people that need to hear that. And it might be from you. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure that you have it together enough to realize it wasn't my fault. And also, if somebody else is having a bad day, it's not their fault because they could be going through the same stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, what do you think what's one question you wish I'd asked you and how would you have answered it?
Huh. One question I guess I wish that you would ask me, which I'm actually glad that you didn't, is what caused your mental health or what caused like your issues because that's uncomfortable for like it's not uncomfortable for me, it's uncomfortable for everybody, but I kind of alluded to it. So I guess it would be or I guess a way to ask it would be were you born with this issue, mental health issue, whether it's ADD, ADHD, OCD, or if it was trauma related, if you were
Yeah.
born with it, or if it was nature, not nature versus nurture, that's not it. But if it was like an outside source that
Yeah, like
caused you to have,
circumstantial.
thank you. Yep, thank you. I'm writing that down. Yeah. If it was circumstantial, if it was like something that was already ingrained in you that you had no,
Controller. Well, no, because you
thank
still didn't
you.
have control. Yeah, but you still didn't have control over the other thing.
Like because my husband technically has depression, but it was hereditary, is passed down, so like
Okay.
he has no control over that.
Yeah.
I And it's not like, oh, like my mental health is more important or bigger than his. It's not like that kind of thing. It's really just because it was already instilled in him growing up as a kid and everything else, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is already here. Then he had more time to, I guess, deal with it,
Yeah.
or at least accept it, more time to accept it or just be aware of it rather than just being like, I'm sad. Why am I sad? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, honey, don't you? Grandma has it. I have it. You have it too. And it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it would probably just be what, I guess, not what caused it, but just was it circumstantial or was it not out of your control? That sounds bad. Yeah, I guess circumstantial, or was it something that was, yeah, I guess out of your control. So like mine would be definitely was something that was out of my control,
Yeah.
but also I didn't have control over how my immediate family dealt with it.
Yeah. True.
So I guess it was asking too much on my part. Just that sounds dark, but just really as a grown up, just being like, oh, I shouldn't. I have blocked my sister and my mom on like social media, phone, everything else because like I can't have negativity in my life, especially when people won't tell me if they're mad at me, why they're mad at me.
Yeah.
But just realizing, okay, well, whatever happens to me, I need to figure it out for myself. I can't blame that on anybody else.
That's true. Yeah, that's
So
very
just
true.
saying, okay, like what happens to me specifically was, well, the things that happened to me, they were circumstantial and all I can do, yeah, I can move, which I did, and I can, you know, I can absolutely change my thought process instead of being like, oh, what was me? I can just be like, okay, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. But also, God forbid it happens again to me. I know
Yeah.
how to, I at least know how to handle it. But I also, I'm not an expert. I just know that if anybody else, and I've definitely had multiple friends ever since I started speaking up about it. I've had a lot of friends, either close friends or even just friends from like high school or college or whatever, say, oh, I went through that too. Like, it's nice to not feel alone. Just
Yeah.
be like, okay, like, hey, I can't fix your issues, but like, I can listen. I can let you know that you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing with mental health is you feel like you're alone and that you're by yourself and you're like trapped in this. No one understands what I'm going through. And
Yep.
you try to diminish your pain or be like, oh, it's like so much bigger than like whatever. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's nice to just realize it doesn't matter if it's just ADD. Like it's not just ADD. Like ADD can consume somebody's entire life.
Oh yeah, definitely. How's yours impacted yours?
Huh. Well, my psychiatrist, she thought that she was like, I don't know if you're bipolar or not, but my therapist was like, you have ADD. And like, we definitely dived into that. She was like, yeah, you have ADD. You're not bipolar, which isn't to say like there's anything wrong with people being bipolar. It's really, she was like, if you take medication for being bipolar when you're not bipolar, that could mess you up
Yeah.
for when you're not bipolar. And I was like, that makes sense. But
Yeah.
I guess that, yeah, my whole, huh, the the farther I looked at like diagnoses, which you can probably relate to, is just being like, oh, it's not just this, it's like this and this and this and this and this and this and
Yes.
this, and then you're like, am I broken? Can I be fixed? And then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not broken. It's really, you're not broken. It's really like, oh, why does my car not work? Oh, because you have to change the battery, you have to put gas in it, you have to fix the windshield because there's a crack in it. Like, it's really just taking the time, which unfortunately a lot of people don't have the time to do to fix themselves because I mean, now, thank God, like a lot of jobs and everything else, you're like, oh yeah, like you need like a mental health day or you need to take like a break. Like I know that my former job, not being a nanny, my former job was like,
Yeah.
at first they were like, nah, like if you got issues, you gotta get out. But then I switched to a different boss and he was like, hey, so he took me from 40 hours to 32 hours, which nobody else was at 32 hours. And I was like, bless you, sir. Like
Yeah, right?
that helped me so much because I was like, I have the receipts. I'm not just like, oh, I don't feel like going to work. Like, no, like I have everything, documented.
Yeah.
Uh, but just, and he was like, I don't need any of that. I trust you because when you are at work, you're at 100% and like you're working great. I just also want to make sure that when you are at work, you're at 100%. And I don't want to see you like not at 100%. So, yeah. But
um so basically, so with the ADHD, do you feel like it impacts you like on an everyday level, or do you feel like you have it pretty much under control?
I, I honestly, I feel like it impacts me, yeah, probably every day. So I definitely, so with a part of my major depressive disorder, so when I get really, really low, which is also why my psychiatrist thought that I was bipolar, or she was toying with the idea because she was like, you get really, really low for like a day or two, and then go back up to like super high for like a week or more, and then go
Mhm.
back down for like a day or two and go right back up, which technically isn't how bipolar is diagnosed. Although I'm not a professional, I just play one on TV, but but yeah, the ADHD like that, when I'm manic, when I'm like super like like I'm super like high, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done drugs since 2017, but like not, well, not prescribed by a therapist, but
Yeah.
like it almost makes me like I'll do like eight I'll do like eight different activities at once. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do laundry, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna cook, and I'm gonna do this, and blah blah. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna teach the baby that I nanny like I mean, teach her how to read, and like she can't even talk yet, but like it doesn't matter because like she's gonna learn either way. So yeah, if anything, like it's definitely super helpful. But then that and when I'm like super manic, like super like just happy and hyper, then I only sleep probably like honestly 2 to 4 hours a night. But then
Okay.
the second that any any low moment hits, which could be anywhere from like a week to 3 weeks, then like I crash, and every single exhaustive moment that I've spent like cooking, cleaning, running, I don't know, watching a movie, writing a story, like all of that, I go, whew, and it all hits at once, and I'm like, okay, I can't move. Like I'm just like
Like
on the
weighed
floor.
down. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So yeah, that's definitely impacted a lot of yeah, it's definitely impacted a lot of that because that just it's almost like my body's waiting for me to crash, and then when I crash, it's not just like, oh, I'm sad. It's like, okay, I can't get off the floor and my body's shaking, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like wait until like it stops. Which I had definitely not this past Friday, Friday before last, that was definitely me. And let me see, that was last this past Wednesday and Thursday. Let's say Saturday. Yep, this past Wednesday and Thursday. So, but I mean, in a nutshell, I still got everything that I needed to get done. Like I still nannied Wednesday and Thursday. I did it at my house instead of at her house. We live like 20-ish minutes apart, so it was like not that big of a deal, but at the same time, like yeah, it definitely because also I mean like a 1 year old, she can't walk yet, although I have stairs in my house. I have 3.5 sets of stairs in my house.
Uh-huh.
She lives on like a rancher type like flat
Oh, okay.
surface.
So there's no steps.
Yeah, no steps. So I was like, okay, so my thought process was, hey, talking to her mom, like, hey, can I just bring it to my house Wednesday and Thursday? Mainly because in my head I was like, I just want to be near my husband if I need him.
Yeah.
Because he's my emotional support dog, but like like I said, I don't really, I love him, but like he's not my best friend. He's not my comfort object. He's my
Yeah.
emotional support dog. If I'm like, hey, I'm having a moment, can I just like see you and be near you? Because he also has like a really great energy. Although we had 3 plants up in our loft, one with thyme, mint, and basil, and he killed all three.
Oh,
So like
dang.
I'm reconsidering my options. But outside of that, it's really just like, okay, where are my comfort objects? But also I'm like, okay, if all the baby does is climb the stairs all day, like she's gonna be able to walk in like a couple of days. So
Oh
like
gosh,
worst case
yeah.
scenario, like because my let me see, my he's gonna be 3, although my sister cut off contact with me, which that's fine, whatever. But anyways, he's gonna be 3 sometime this month, and I got him to. I didn't cause him to walk. I just know that I was taking him in my house, and I was letting him climb up all 3 of my stairs, and he was 1.5. He was kind of walking, but like not like walking, like not like
Yeah.
running, not like yeah. So I was letting him climb up all of our stairs, and I had him for like a solid weekend, like Friday, Saturday. I give him back Sunday, and then he went back home and he started like actually walking, like unassisted, like not like oh
Oh,
I'm a
did he?
toddler. Yeah, and I don't chalk it up to like I did it. I just he was able to be like in a because at that time they also lived in like a rancher, like a flat surface, because they didn't live in like a now they live in a house with like 4 sets of stairs, but that I mean he's already walking now, so like
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, mental health wise, I mean that also goes into so my psychiatrist put me on drugs where she was like, oh, in case you guys have kids, like these Zoloft and Brazosum won't like harm your child or child in the making or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if we want to go down that path. My husband said to me the other day, he was like, yeah, he was like, I want to make sure that we both, he didn't say him. He said, we
Yeah.
both have solid mental health plans for
Yeah.
if we want to bring in another human, which I was like, that I
Ooh, wow, that's
appreciate that.
awesome. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, that's why we're married. But
Right?
Because I mean, like, he has his own depression. His depression's definitely quieter than mine, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it doesn't hurt him as much.
Yeah.
It just means that mine is louder, but that's also, he's allowed me to, when you've been stuffed in a box for so long and be like, no, you can't be depressed or sad or everything else on top of XYZ. When you're finally let out the box, you're like, ah! And then who is he to be like, oh, ma'am, can you please keep it down? Like, I'm trying to like cry in silence.
Yeah.
Like, so
It sounds like you guys have a good, solid relationship. That's awesome. Because
he's
that is a
okay.
good.
No.
He's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate, honestly, I will never boast about him, but because I don't know, it's almost like that little secret that you keep where you're, like, if your best friend tells you a secret, like, oh, like this really cool thing. Like, let's say your best friend was like, oh, hey, I'm moving to like Disneyland and I get to live in like Cinderella's castle, but like, don't tell anybody yet because like it's not like set in stone. And you're like, I
Yeah.
got you, girl. That's kind of how I feel because like people complain about their significant others, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, whatever. And I'm sitting there like, I feel like I'm in like the movie Mean Girls when they're like, "Oh, my nail butt suck. Like my hairline's so weird, and oh, my
And you
pores are
don't have
huge."
anything to
And
say anything about.
yeah, I'm like, "Oh, my breath in the morning's really bad." And I almost feel bad because I'm like, but then I'm like, okay, time out. Like, almost like to quote the Labyrinth, David Bowie, Jennifer, I almost said Coldridge. Nope, that's not it.
No.
Which one? Which Jennifer? You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yes. 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 Because
It's
it's
not
the
Jennifer
labyrinth.
Gardner. It's thank you.
No.
Well, like I fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, no, I fought for this shit. Like, no, this is like no, but I'm not gonna put it on blast because then I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. But like, no, like I fought for this shit. Like I did it from 2 days. And when we were in seventh grade, and I broke up with him on the school bus, and he got off the school bus, and he looked really sad. He was like, "Oh," and he was like
Oh.
really sad.
Oh.
And then like we hung out sporadically, and then like we started dating. Like my last assault was like March 2018. Oh shit. And then we started dating April, whatever. Anyways, and then well, we went on our first date April 28th, 2018, or something. I don't know the date. And then yeah, and then like we officially started, our second date was my sister's wedding, which was in June of that year, and then like we got married in September. So like yeah, nothing's perfect. Like we definitely had to work, but like we also spent like I spent a fucking year away from him. I had to walk to his house just to see him, like that, but like
Yeah.
with my down payment and my realtor and his now income combined, we are Captain Planet. So like it's fine.
That's awesome. That's seriously awesome. Well, now, is there anything that you had on your notes that you want to say also?
Let's see. Du-du-du-du-du. I my oh main thing is, I want to say main thing is therapy. Not every therapist is a great one. You can
No.
probably attest to that.
Yes,
And when I say
definitely.
unfortunately, like when you meet a it's like going on a bad date. You're like,
Yep.
okay, we saw Soul Plane and you didn't offer me any popcorn and you also didn't pay for my ticket and you made me sit through Soul Plane. Like, so yeah, every therapist is not a great one. Like you literally have to, Psychology Today, definitely solid for at least looking for an initial therapist or at least a therapeutic platform, if you will,
Yeah.
because yeah, they're certified at least.
Yeah, right.
It's not as, if you can deal with your mental health off of medication, more power to you. That's fantastic. But if you can't, then you can't.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. There's no shame.
yeah, there's no shame. If you can't deal with your mental health or deal with your everyday today, whether it's just even, oh, I need Ritalin to make sure like I pick my kids up from school and I like do the laundry. Like, okay, so like then that's what you have to do. Like
Yep.
there should be no stigma with mental health, getting help for it, whatever that looks like. That it's not whatever happened to you, whatever your mental health is not your fault, but it's your responsibility to do your due diligence to make sure that, the follow through, that's on you. Sorry about it, but like that,
Yeah, you're right. You're
because
right, because nobody else is going to do the work but yourself.
right. And also the few moments where you're able to sit back and say, I mean, even for you, if you're able to sit back and be like, my 12-year-old, my 10-year-old, they're able to sit back and like, that they had like had a good dinner, they had a good night, like they're sleeping soundly because like they had like a good day, or at least like they're rested,
Yeah.
then you're able to sit back and be like, I did that shit. And then even for yourself to step in, like, mentally I'm good, they're good. You know what? I'm gonna, I don't know, open a bottle of wine. I'm gonna like watch a movie I've been like wanting to watch for like X amount of time. I'm gonna like go for a walk around the neighborhood. I'm gonna go like, I don't know, play video game. I'm gonna like go to sleep early, like whatever works for
Yeah.
you. Like that's phenomenal. Like, and also just your mental health, it's your job, it's your journey. Don't harp too much on like what you have to do to make it happen. And then also just appreciate and reward yourself, and like, snaps for, you, oh, you got up today and you put the dishes away. If that's all you did something. So like,
Yep.
good fucking job. Like, I definitely sometimes have to tell myself that. Like,
Yeah, me too.
it's like, oh, you put the dishes away, or like, oh, you folded the laundry, or oh, you made it to your therapist appointment on time, or better, you made it there 5 minutes early. Check you out. All right, girl, I see you. Like, look at you, like being on time, showing up early. Like, you took your medication when you're supposed to. One of my friends, she takes well,
well, Breach, and I take that.
okay, thank you. I was
Yeah.
like, it's not well. We call it well bootrin because when she misses it, I go boo, and it's like boo. Sorry. Yeah. So she takes that, but she sometimes forgets to take it, and she takes it at weird times, and I'm like boo when she doesn't take it. But then when she does, I'm like boo.
I
Like,
like that.
yeah. I don't, because I wish that we didn't have that system, but like that's what you do. We have friends that like, mental health journeys. What are you gonna do? Um,
Exactly.
yeah, or like, I don't believe in having like what's it called? New Year's resolutions, but I've definitely been doing this thing where at least for like the last, I'm gonna say 2 weeks, I've been like, oh, let me make sure I learn 5 new things a day.
Oh, I like that.
Whether that's I learned a new word in Spanish, like I've definitely learning. So the baby and nanny, I've been letting her, whenever I put on Selena, like not Selena Gomez, like Selena,
Selena,
then
Selena. Yeah, the real
yeah,
Selena.
Selena can, yeah, she she'll dance, and she can't really talk yet, but like she kind of like she dances, she loses her mind, like she's like, oh my god. And I'm like, who, like, I love Selena because that was the first time I felt seen as a person, because growing up I was like, nobody looks like me, and I was like, oh my god, Selena does. I'm like, she's dead. But anyways, oh yeah, that troll, the troll that killed her gets out of prison soon. Anyways,
Does she really?
I think it's 2024. Either way, like,
Damn.
it's, yeah, I just know I'm very familiar with Corpus Christi, but I know there's gonna be a lot of people there before I would even get there. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait. That's no big deal.
Yep, exactly.
But that's not a threat, that's a promise. But anyways, but I also got family in Texas, like all, but anyways, so just, yeah, learning 5 new things, even if it's like I learned, so I would make barbecue beef, and but I found a new way to make it, and I was like, okay, cool, that counts as like one. And I also found a new way to like fold foil over, if you're putting something in the oven, like folding foil over something.
Yeah.
So, and you basically wrap it like a Christmas present. Like, it's crazy, but like, thank you, Gordon Ramsay, because like that saved my life. Or just learning like, oh, hey, if I paint my nose this way, then it sticks better than if I do it this way.
Yeah.
Or if I don't know, just, it doesn't even matter. There's no magnitude. It's just learning 5 new things a day, and you're like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. And if you learn more than that, that's great. And if you don't, okay, well, like, Yeah, like I learned a new way to like fold a t-shirt. Whether I use it or not, that's up to me. But like,
Yeah, but you learned it.
yeah.
I like that. I really like that 5 things a day. I do that with my kids too.
I'm like, okay, what did you learn today? You don't get no
Exactly. There's
dessert.
5 things. Let me know.
Oh,
Oh, well, speaking of that, it's almost time for me to wrap it up here. I always like to close out with a quote or a joke of the day. So the quote that I have is everybody everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And that's from
hmm.
Albert Einstein. Um, so like, you got to teach people within their realm of what they're able to what's capable for them basically.
Yeah.
And then my joke is it's really corny. I love
No,
corny
I
jokes.
love. Yeah.
All right, so studies show ADHD students cost the school more on average because they cannot afford to pay attention. They had some really rough ones. I was trying to look up jokes, right? And they had some really rough ones. Like they were talking about like why can't you like where do you send ADHD kids? You send them to concentration camps. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, should I tell this one? I was like, it's really funny, but it's so inappropriate.
I love it. I know,
I know, isn't it? It's so funny, but so inappropriate. But I got to say it anyway, so I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad I got to.
uh,
Oh gosh. And then
yo,
I got
nah, that took me out of my comfort zone.
oh awesome. That was awesome. Oh, that was good. Oh, that was so good.
And frankly speaking, sorry, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Those were awesome. They were awesome. I'm glad I said that joke because we got the ball rolling.
Oh, ashes to ashes. Am I
Oh,
right? Go ahead. What was the
right,
next one?
right. Oh my gosh. You're good. You're good. Oh
Oh,
my gosh. Woo. Well, oh my gosh. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on my show today. I really, really appreciate it.
thank
Like,
you
I
for
had such
having
a good
me.
time. I had such a good time
Yeah,
talking with you.
yeah. I hope I didn't hog the conversation.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I got to give my shout outs here. I got to give my shout outs to Jake Dante at So You Like Horror Podcast and
Woo.
and then Tiana Taylor at Tiana underscore Taylor underscore BJJ. And do you have any shout outs of anybody you want to give?
I guess Dante's cool or whatnot. Like he put me on to, this. He was like, mental health, you have mental health issues. And I was like, try that again. But he's not wrong. So yeah, no, definitely that was definitely helpful. Um I want to just Wine and Crime. They don't sponsor me, but like Wine and Crime podcast, like absolutely 1000%, because they're about wine, mental health, and then also true crime. So I mean,
Ooh, I'm gonna
yeah,
have to check that out.
you might have to. So yeah, no, that's it.
All right, cool, cool. Well, it's been so
Oh
good
my
speaking
God,
with
off
you.
the
Oh
mat.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Oh
off
no,
the
go
mat.
ahead.
My bad. Off the mat podcast.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Don't forget that.
yeah. Oops. Yep.
All right, girl. Well, I'm going to sign off here. It was so good speaking with you. And you have a great night, okay?
Thanks. You too. Thank you so
All
much.
right, no problem.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Well, that was my guest, Aleana. She was really awesome. Just remember, this is Let's Talk About It with Q. I'm listening. It was so good to have her on tonight. And I really hope that everyone enjoys our podcast.